About 15 years ago, I started working on the next great American novel. And I don't mean like Demon Copperhead or The Overstory. No, I'm talking about a real American novel, an action thriller with vampires and zombies. And, all the chapters that I was writing, they were really good. Like the people in my writing group really liked them. And I was churning them out at a rate of, one a month or two or three, one every 1 to 7 months. And I really had something. I knew I had something, but actually finding the time to write was challenging. And then when I was about halfway done with the book, in my estimation, I took a friend's writing class on how to pitch to agents. And in the class, we learned that you can't really pitch a manuscript to an agent if it's not done yet. So that sucked. And then we learned how to write a pitch letter. And I read my pitch letter out loud in class, and all 30 other students, people I didn't even know, were like, I want to read that novel. And I was like, yeah, right. It's a really good idea. I just have to get it done. And I was complaining to a friend of mine about how I don't know how I'm ever going to get this thing done. And she said, you need motivation. You need a deadline. Here's what you do. You take that amazing pitch letter that you wrote and you send it to an agent. You'll know that you'll only have 3 to 4 months to get the manuscript done because they are going to ask to read it. And I thought, well, that's a really dumb idea, but I love it because I do totally need a deadline. So I did some research because I figured if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to submit to an agent, I'm going to submit to the best agent around. And so I found Neil Gaiman's agent. And I read her submission process. And yes, they wanted the pitch letter and they wanted the first chapter and they wanted it mailed, like snail mailed with an SASE, a self-addressed stamped envelope, so that in 3 to 6 months, they would send everything back to you. And I thought, okay, all right, I can do this. And I put everything together, and on a Friday afternoon, I put it in the mail and sent it off to Neil Gaiman's agent. And then I thought, well, crap, now I got to get to work. I got to get this thing done because I only have 3 months, maybe, hopefully. But not today. Because, it was Friday. I wanted to hang out with friends, and then it was the weekend, and I had stuff to do. But on Monday, at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I got an email from this woman who said that she was Marianne's assistant and that Marianne had read my pitch letter and that she loved it and she couldn't wait to read my manuscript. Please email it. Neil Gaiman's agent. Neil freaking Gaiman's agent wanted to read my book. This was amazing. Except that the book actually wasn't done. I had kind of lied about that whole thing. And then there was this thing where she wanted it emailed, like not put in snail mail where I could claim to have done it, and then like 3 months later be like, oh, wait, you never got that? Let me send it again now that I've actually written it. No, she wanted to see it immediately. And I didn't know what to do because I really wanted her to get to read it, but it wasn't done. So I came up with a lie really quickly. And I I wrote her back and I said, actually, I'm out of the country for 2 weeks with no access to my files. Can I send it when I get back? And she wrote back and said, yes, of course. Marianne would love to read it whenever you can get it to her. So I took the next 2 weeks off of work. I cleared my schedule, and every day I wrote for 8 hours a day. And it honestly was fantastic experience. And after about 8 days, I had some friends lined up who read my first draft and they gave me feedback. And then I did some revisions. And then 2 weeks to the day later, I sent off my 56,000 word manuscript to Neil Gaiman's agent. And about 56 minutes later, she wrote back and rejected it. Yeah, that was kind of disappointing. But the good news is that obviously I had an awesome pitch letter, right? The only agent I sent it to. So over the next year, I worked a little bit harder on the manuscript, on revising it more, and I worked on submitting that pitch letter to hundreds of agents, or over 100. And in that whole time, Marianne remained the only one who ever requested to see my manuscript. So finally, I just said, you know what? I'm going to self-publish. And I did, and my first novel, Caged by J.P. Robinson, was released, and the dozens or so of people who read it said they loved it, and I got some good reviews. And because I know I need motivation, I was so bold as to put right on the very cover of the book, the first in a trilogy. And I did immediately start writing the sequel. I have to say, I'm about halfway through. I've been about halfway through for 5 or 6 years now, but I am gonna finish it. I am going to finish the next book just as soon as an agent requests to read it.